Welcome to Really Cool Stuff for the Home podcast, sponsored by HomeWerks. And now with today's show on all the ways to improve your home is your host, Denise Sanchez.
Hi, everybody. This is Denise, Really Cool Stuff for the Home, HomeWerks, where we're going to make your homework better for you. Last week, we were speaking with Jeff Polucci, the national sales trainer for the entire U.S., and he is extremely knowledgeable. He's from Miele. And I wanted to do a second part. We talked about the Miele washers and dryers for residential and all the unique features that they have. If you didn't listen to it last week, check it out. If you ever want to buy the most wonderful washer and dryer, it's a Miele washer and dryer. But I wanted to give Miele some street cred because they're more than just the residential washers and dryers. So I wanted to have other conversations about the care products that Miele has for taking care of our clothing. It's not just the washers and dryers, but also commercially. And we're going to talk about spectacular irons that you can't even imagine will give you dry cleaning results. And so I wanted to kind of have a conversation about that. But also, too, I've had several people ask me, well, not just several, a lot of people, hey, how do you say Miele, whatever, they never come out. Well, I'll tell you this one little story. I was in Germany, this was in the 90s, and I met the Miele senior, of the father of Mr. Miele that's in power right now. But I said Miele, because I come from San Antonio, we have a Latin background here, and so I just thought Miele. And he said to me, as he's shaking my hand, he says, no. And I believe he said this. I don't know if I exaggerated this. No, darling, it's Miele like Sheila. And since we're from Texas, I always tell people it's Miele like tequila. And everyone gets
that works.
it. Everyone knows. So it's a unique name that people seem to have a lot of trouble saying. So Miele like tequila. So, Jeff, welcome back. You did such a great job explaining all the wonderful things about the Miele washer and dryer. And I wanted to touch base and give Miele that street cred about who they really are as a manufacturing company. They are incredible. So we look at the residential models, but they have these amazing products that are very unique to the commercial industry. Can you talk, I don't want to know every little detail about them, but kind of give us like an overview of all their commercial machines.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about laundry, you got to remember that laundry was the second product category we ever built. Right. So we started building, butter churns, and then we went right into laundry in 1901. And so we've been building laundry longer than anything else. And when it comes to the process of cleaning clothing, it is actually not just let me dump some clothes in a bucket, swish them around a little bit, throw a little soap in there and rinse them out. That's not what it's about. It's really a science. And when you understand the science, then you can almost convince fabric to let go of a stain. Even a stain that's set, you can actually treat the fabric in a way that it lets it go without having to rip it away, where you take away half the clothing, right? Because it's very easy for a single load of clothing to cost more than the machine itself. But our commercial division focuses on that. And so all of the technology that we have in our residential washers comes from our commercial division, where they are perfecting the process of, well, I'll say it again, convincing fabrics to let go of a stain so that you maintain the fabric's integrity, but you get all these stains out at the same time.
That's an awesome way of thinking about it. So they have very, very large capacity. We were talking about, before, how the residential models have 18-pound capacity for a very small footprint. The same thing. What is the largest capacity that Miele has in their commercial machines? Just so people can get an idea. 30 pounds. That's a lot.
I'm sorry, I take that back. Depending on the drum, if you go all the way up to the top drum, it's about 72 pounds.
That's a lot of clothes.
It's a lot of clothes. I mean, and those are machines that they'll use on cruise ships,
right?
Things like that. Like submarines, aircraft carriers, destroyers, cruise lines, things like that. That's the kind of big, huge type of machine you're talking about.
And they have a lot of different models with different capacity, but also too, they have a lot of different programming. For instance, we have sold some commercial models for the equine. For
Hmm.
people that want them in barns, I'm sorry, bars, in barns. And
Yeah.
so talk about that specialty, unique product and what it would do specifically for a stable.
Well, you know what's interesting is that that machine you're talking, the equine machines, those are 10 kg machines, at 10 kilogram machines, and those have a very large drum, but they are specifically designed with drum rhythms that are developed specifically to wash very heavy, dense horse blankets, right?
Mhm.
So the entire tumbling rhythm, the spin rhythm, the extraction rhythm, the cleaning rhythms, the saturation rate, the water levels, everything about the heating rate, the cooling rate, everything is designed for horse or equestrian type of things like blankets, saddle pads, things like that. And so the machines not only have to be extremely strong, but they have to be able to spin something that heavy without damaging it or the machine or walking out of the barn. And
Right.
one of the most impressive things about our machines is they don't have to be bolted to concrete. They have what's called a floating installation. That's how well engineered they are. When they spin, the centrifugal force of the drum actually pushes the machine into the ground. It actually gets heavier when you
Yes.
spin it, and yet you don't have to lag bolt it into concrete. There's really nothing else out there like it. But the engineering has to do with cleaning something very heavy and very dirty, and doing so without destroying itself or the blanket.
They even have special filter boxes that will capture the hair from the horses. You know, can
That's
you
right.
imagine a barn using a regular machine? I mean, they must go through machines every 6 months. There's no way that it could do the job, and it would be clogged up. It'd be a mess.
Well,
So,
that's a really good point, Denise, because a lot of dry cleaners,
mhm,
they will use residential sets of laundry to wash stuff like this, and they routinely destroy the machines.
right.
They
And
have to
not,
replace them 4 or 5 times a year.
and plus not do an adequate job. It doesn't
Oh,
get them
they do a
right.
terrible job.
Exactly. So it may damage or not clean as well, that sort of thing. They also have, and I wanted to expand on that one because we're in cowboy country and we have a lot of barns and a lot of horses around here. So I just wanted to make
Mhm.
sure that the audience, my audience, understands that we do have this available and we do sell these.
Yes,
They also have some for firefighting. Talk about that because
that's
I
right.
find this fascinating.
Well, what's interesting is that in this particular case, it happens to be the same machine, but with a different set of programs within it, because what's called fire turnout gear. And so whenever, a firefighter puts on that gear, it has to be obviously heat proof and fireproof, right?
Mhm.
But when you wash it, you can't remove those coatings, right? So you have to be able to clean it without destroying the ability of the clothing to push back heat and push back fire. And we've developed rhythms that can do that, and temperature sequences that can do that safely. We've even developed sequences that when you put the proper chemicals in the machine, you can retreat the fire turnout gear and
Right.
strengthen
Mhm.
the fireproofing and the thermal proofing. It's pretty impressive process. But this is what we do. That's what our commercial division does.
Mhm.
We're experts in this stuff.
Mhm. We have the main thing that we usually sell are like vet clinics and salons. We do the smaller version, it's still larger. For instance, the Little Giants, that's been a real popular model. It's about the same capacity as the residential, but there's some differences as to why a vet clinic would look at doing this. They're going to be using these, all day long, every day. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. The box size is almost the same. Believe it or not, the interior drum is actually a little bit bigger than the
Oh my,
residential
yeah,
machines.
yeah.
I know they're rated at 18 pounds, but they're actually a bit bigger than that on the inside.
Mhm, mhm.
But the key with the Little Giants is every component, and I'm talking about the pistons, the springs, the motors, the vibration dampeners, Everything about those machines is stronger. It's stronger. And the reason for that is because it's made to run cycle after cycle, after load, after load, after load, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month. I mean, they're made to run all the time. When you're looking at doing, say, 5-10 loads a day, you don't want to use a residential machine like that. And a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that a big machine, like a really big residential machine, I can get it all done in there. What they don't tell you is that those big loads vibrate themselves to pieces during the spin.
Mm-hmm.
The little giants can do all of those loads, but it's made for the pounding. And they're just made to go for year after year, taking load after load, day after day, 5, 6, 7 days a week, and never break down. It's really, they're just built on an entirely different strength platform. Every component is stronger.
And the cost of them is not crazy at all, especially when you factor in the life of it. I can't tell you, I've had several clinics that have worked with me on specifically the little giants, which we do have in our showroom, by the way, if anyone wants to come inspect them. But they'll say, we'll use a residential machine, and in 6 months we buy another residential machine, and in 6 months we buy another residential machine. Well, here's what happens. You're totally inconvenienced. The machine has broke down, so you're doing no laundry. And in a vet clinic, or even we sell them to places that not only are vet clinics, but maybe they board. We have places that board animals, so you can imagine the laundry and the bedding that they have, to deal with.
Oh yeah.
So can you imagine being down for a couple of days and having to deal with having to get another machine in, and you got water wasting on the other products. They use a lot more water. Plus, they don't do as good a job. They damage. They don't sanitize. Whatever. They're just not appropriate machine. Residential machines are not appropriate, people, in a commercial environment.
They're not.
They're just not. But
let me give you a great comparison that I think your audience will really appreciate. So when you're looking at the little giants versus our residential machines, right? If I look at a pair of them side by side, they look remarkably similar in stature, right?
Right.
But the residential machines, as good as they are, those are made for a 10,000 hour life, okay? And about 40 tons of total throughput clothing. 10,000 hours, 40 tons. When you compare that to a little giant, that is impressive.
Yes,
there actually is no other residential that do that. But the little giants, they're made for 30,000 hours and 160 tons
of
throughput clothing.
Yeah.
I mean, those things are just meant to go all the time. No comparison.
And here's the other thing on these machines. We never hear from our customers, our commercial clients. We just don't hear from them. If we do, it's a gasket or something's minor, or it has to do with their plumbing issues, not the machines. But they really do. I can truthfully say these machines really do hold up. They're amazing.
They do.
There are other specialty products too. Like you said, you see them on ships. You see them on yachts a lot. You also see them in hotels, and they have specialty program cards, that allude to their electronics that I think are so fascinating, that you can have, if you have some, like, talk about what kind of a specialty program would you want to put on these cards?
Well, believe it or not, we've updated the electronics, and we no longer have cards, but the controls themselves are actually changeable. So, for example, a good example would be like a bed and breakfast. Okay, so a bed and breakfast is going to generally tend to wash a lot of flat things like tablecloths, napkins, sheets, blankets, linens, things like that. So a lot of flat things. So we have an entire package of programs that is for bed and breakfast. We have other packages of programs that are made for, an apartment complex or anything, or a veterinary clinic or anything like that, and they're all in the machine. So not only that, if there's a set of cycles that you like, but they're not grouped the way you want them, you can actually create your own group within the machine. So, the ones that we just released are completely customizable, so that you can dial them in to exactly the set of programs that you want to fit your exact business or need. And you don't need a card to do it.
And again, I wanted to touch base on all these commercial machines and offerings that Miele has, because I just wanted people to really understand that Miele really does have some street cred when it comes to washers and dryers. They don't just produce, one little set and that's it. But they also have some other unique products for finishing. Again, we're talking about the care of clothing. And they have these huge mangles or rotary irons. And they also have them for residential, but I wanted to kind of talk about these. So say you have a commercial washer and dryer, it could be the ship, or it could be an apartment building, whatever. So now you're going to iron all these things, right? So talk about these wonderful rotary irons that are just amazing.
The rotary irons, you can get them in commercial or residential, and you can get them with or without steam, which is great. But using a rotary iron takes a little bit of practice, because the key with a rotary iron is the feed. If you feed it correctly, you can't get it wrong. The problem is you just have to learn how to feed things. It's a learning curve.
Right.
But the best thing about them is that they are so incredibly fast. And when you're putting like a bed linen across there, or a tablecloth across there, and you feed it in there, that thing is pressed perfectly within seconds. It's very, very fast. And they're so powerful that it oftentimes only takes one feed, which is very impressive as well.
And on the washers, this is incredible too. On the washers, even the residential, on the drying aspect, it will allow you to have the drying setting for an iron, so it's a little bit of moisture, or for a rotary iron. They call it machine irons, so that when you take it out, you have a little more dampness, so you get a better finishing result, which I thought was really fascinating, the tandem, performance between the dryers and the rotary irons. That's pretty neat. And these can be very, very large for commercial application. What are the
They
widths
can be,
of? They're
they
huge.
can get up to a 6-foot roller.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's a big machine.
Yes.
That's a really big machine. And as a matter of fact, to your point on the dryers, the sensors that we have in our dryers are the most advanced in the world. So for example, when you want to dry something to a rotary iron level of residual moisture, right? Because you never want to iron something that's dry.
Right.
You always want to iron something that's a little bit damp. Well, it's exactly 18% residual moisture that's appropriate for a rotary iron. If your dryer doesn't have the capability to be that precise, then you can create double, triple, quadruple the work for yourself,
right,
by simply not having the right amount of moisture in that clothing. We do both. We make the dryers, the sensors, and we make the rotary irons, and they go together perfectly.
And they have the residential models, which are much smaller. What is that width? It's about what, 30 inches?
The roller itself is 30 inches. Yeah.
Okay, so that's still a very, very large. You could feed in sheets, that sort of thing. So my typical customers that I see, number one, we have a lot more gracious hostessy going on. So we're not just putting out the paper napkins. We're now throwing out the nice linens, and during the holiday season, the nice linens and napkins, that sort of thing. So if you're buying the nicer stuff, you want to iron. Well, if you're ironing them, it's going to take a little bit of time. But if you're sitting down on this roller, you can just feed it in. And it doesn't take that much of a learning curve to do that, because Jeff, I can do that. So I do. And if I can do that, anybody knows how I'm not very coordinated, or it seems to make things more difficult. I can do that and come out with a fabulous job. They have two for the residential. One is just, the regular heat, so you'd have to have some moisture, and then they have another one that has the steam, which has been pretty popular. And we even sell those for customers that are doing things commercially, like say they are they're into weddings, so they're supplying all the linens for the wedding, even the what do you call it, the dressings for the chairs and things. What do you call it? Slip covers. Slip covers. Yes.
Yes.
So can you imagine ironing those by hand? So having something like this is really nice. And what they like about it is that it folds up, and they can take it in their cars or vans and take it to the site, so that if they have any touch up and all, people love to touch it up, and it's super simple to do that. So, but it was sure. Yes, very, very nice. Very, very nice. So that is really neat. But they have this other fabulous, fabulous iron system. It's called the FashionMaster, and it's just that. I'm telling you, if you were wearing linens, silks, whatever it is, it's going to do a finishing job just like a dry cleaner. In fact, it resembles just the same thing as the dry cleaner's ironing system. It's unique because the water doesn't go in the iron; it goes in a compartment where there is actual steam boiler that produces dry steam under pressure. But I want you to talk about that because I know you're going to relay the information a little bit better. But I'm telling you, this is one of my favorite products to use.
Yeah, I love the FashionMaster. I've demonstrated it hour upon hour at different shows, and it's a great piece because, as you noted, the steam is not generated in the iron. It's generated in a separate steam generator inside the main body of the unit. And that steam comes out at a very high volume, very high speed from the iron itself. But the best thing about it, see, you can buy irons with a lot of steam. That's not the big deal. The big deal is the combination of that steam, velocity, and volume plus the board, because the board itself has got motors in it that either pull or push. So what that means is that, let's say, for example, when you have it on pull, that means that it's pulling the steam through the board, not to the board. And this means that the steam goes through the clothing very quickly. For example, you could actually take a pair of jeans, you could fold the legs together, both legs together, and press them once.
Exactly.
That's how well it pulls the steam through. So it's an extremely fast way to do things. But the other part of it is you can reverse the airflow and have the board push up instead of pull down. So you could actually lay one of the best things, like a t-shirt with a print on it, right? So you could actually have the air come up, put the heat guard on the bottom of the iron, fire the steam out against an air cushion, and of course the sheets between the air cushion and the iron, and it takes the wrinkles right out, but it never ruins the print. So the machine is incredibly versatile. And I'll tell you, the learning curve on the FashionMaster is almost nothing.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, I would say that if anything, people are stunned at how much they can do with it. You know, because it is so powerful, so fast. Yeah, exactly.
How quickly.
Yeah. I love it.
I can take my napkins, like if don't want to deal with the rotary iron for whatever reason, I can take my napkins, I can fold them up like I'm going to put them on the table and go right through it. And just like that, with the section, it's already done. Yeah. And if you wanted to do, men love this. In fact, do you know that we sell more of this type of iron system to men than we do women? Did you know that? And
I'm not surprised.
And the reason,
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and here's the reason why. Men come in and they do their own iron. Usually, especially if they're professional.
I do.
Okay, right?
Yep.
And the reason is you guys are so picky about how your clothes come out. Picky, because you want all these seams to be perfect. You know, you don't want any little wrinkles or over,
right.
You know, and
that's because if we got it wrong, you'd be the first one to point it out. That's why.
No, but we've done our ironing. We've done the kids' ironings, the uniforms, you know, we do the table linens and all that. So you have at it, you guys. But, you know, the men come in and just like men, they're looking for a tool to do a good job. And I sell more to men. Men justify, you know, having a system like this much more easily than women do. But they'll come in and they'll say, you know, at first, when this first started occurring years ago, I was kind of like, what, the men? And they said, I do my ironing. I do my own ironing. And they'll come in and look at it and they love this system. Love. So like even jeans around here, we have those cowboys, remember? A lot of our cowboys love their jeans to have the nice crease. And when you have the suction, the pull down, it gives you that dry cleaner crease that you don't get with a regular iron. So and for me, my silks and things, you know, I may wear them one time and then they're not, they don't look fresh, they're wrinkled up. You have an attachment that you can put on too that has for just pressure steaming. And another thing I love is that on a typical iron, when you're steaming, you know, after the hot plate is what produces the steam. So it has to be hot enough to produce the steam. But once the steam hits the hot plate, it reduces the temperature. So then you don't have steam. So what do you have? A big mess on your clothes. You know, you have this water stain. Well, with the FashionMaster, because it's in the boiler, it's dry steam, you never get those drips. I mean, isn't that amazing?
That's right.
It makes it so much easier.
It's extremely well designed. I'll never forget one time Dr. Miele actually approached me. I was doing a demonstration for a group of people. He happened to be in the US at that time. He was visiting, and he came up to me and he said, let me try this. He said, I want you to tie me. And so I was using a dress shirt. So I would take the dress shirt and twist it into a rope and then iron it. And so he said, I want you to tie me. So he got behind the FashionMaster and he said, 3, 2, 1, go. He ironed that shirt, the collar, the cuffs, you know, the shirt cuffs, the sleeve cuffs, every panel of the shirt, and he was completely done with a beautifully pressed shirt in just under 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
That's pretty good.
And it looked beautiful. So that's how, I mean, that's pretty fast for a shirt, you know?
Plus, you don't have to use the starch. You can if you want, but starch really holds in dirt and stains. It's not good for the clothing, you know, and who wants to be breathing, you know, the stuff anyway, but you don't, you know, we just don't use starch at all. It's an amazing product. I have one customer, she's a dentist. She loves her FashionMaster so much. It's a Zen thing for her. She has a very, very heavy schedule. She gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and she irons. And she says, what I love is having a beautiful result. I finished something. You know, I feel like I've accomplished something. And for me, she says, it's Zen. So everything in her house, down to underwear, gets ironed, everything. But she absolutely loves her machine.
It is somewhat cathartic, I will tell you. Ironing with it is really
once I get started,
the clothing and you're done.
Exactly. Once they get started, it's sitting down and getting started. But you know, I don't do a lot of ironing, but when I do, and actually my husband irons. I'll own up to this. My husband does a lot more ironing because he irons his own stuff. I just am not doing it. He takes care of it, and he loves how easy it is. And in our area, we have a lot of cottons and linens, which are so difficult to iron with a regular iron. And with this, I mean, it's just so fast, and you get such a beautiful result. It's just amazing. Or, you know, I've had one customer tell me that on his suit jackets, he'll take and he'll use the cushion of air, so it separates the lining, the lining from his coat, and he will iron the lining of his coat even. He wants that to not have wrinkles as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, rayon linings, absolutely.
Yeah, I have so many stories I can go on with this. Oh, sewing, quilting, you know, that cushion of air so you don't compact it. I mean, I could go on and on with all these different stories. So you could see why I wanted to have a second segment on Miele's washers and dryers and all that they do, Jeff. I know that you were worried that we were going to bore my listening audience with all these details, but I think it's fascinating, and the time has just flown by talking about these features.
It has.
You know, I just love them. But we do have the washers and dryers live in our showroom, the little giants and the rotary irons. So it makes a lot of fun when people come in and they look around and look at that. And you know, the force of steam that you get from the FashionMaster, you know, it's not like this steam. I mean, it's this pressurized dry stream. It's just awesome.
No, it'll push steam 6 feet. You know, it's really impressive. And you know, one of the things, Denise, that I think a lot of people take for granted is, you know, I hear people say this all the time, you know, like a washer is a washer, a dryer is a dryer, an iron's an iron, a dishwasher is a dishwasher. Well, they're not, right? That would be like saying a car is a car.
Exactly.
No, they're not.
Yeah, look at a Ferrari.
And so, right, when you consider how much money people spend on their clothing,
exactly,
then all of a sudden, the care you take of it and the equipment that you use to do that makes all the difference in the world. And Miele is all about fabric cleaning, but maximizing fabric care. There's no point in trying to clean it if you destroy it.
Exactly.
So we try to do both.
See, Jeff, this was so interesting. I thank you for this segment. You were, again, so informative, and you are coming back. I demand that you come back a couple more segments to talk about. some of their other products. You're just a wealth of information. You're always so much fun. I mean, who else could deliver this information and it be so interesting but you? You're awesome. So
love to come back.
This is Denise with HomeWerks, really cool stuff for the home, where we're going to make your homework better for you. And I have to read this. I'm told to do this. I'm trying to grow my listening audience. So if you're on YouTube, thank you for watching today's episode. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to HomeWerks SATV. And we'll make your homework better for you. See you next week. Thank you, Jim.